What's up, geeks and game masters? Welcome to the Hobby Hub School of Wizardry. Your resident Archmage Gabe here, and today we're going to delve deep into the ancient study of magic in D&D. In this video, I'll be explaining what a spell is, the various schools of magic, how to cast a spell, and how to know if your spell is a success or a failure. On the surface, magic has quite a few rules, but I promise you, when you get it down, it's like second nature. Before we begin, I just want to say that if you want to check out the spells available in D&D, you can simply download the D&D5e app on your phone. I personally use this app when looking at spells because it has every spell from every book absolutely free to you. So, check it out. Now, without any further delay, let's equip our hats of wizardry, open our spell books, and prepare to cast a spell. As written in the D&D5e Player's Handbook, a spell is a discrete magical effect, a single shaping of the magical energies that suffuse the multiverse into a specific, limited expression. In casting a spell, a character carefully plucks at the invisible strands of raw magic suffusing the world, pins them in a place in a particular pattern, sets them vibrating in a specific way, and then releases them to unleash the desired effect. In most cases, all in the span of seconds. Spells can be versatile tools, weapons, or protective wards. They can deal damage or undo it, impose or remove conditions, drain life energy away, and restore life to the dead. Uncounted thousands of spells have been created over the course of the multiverse's history, and many of them are long forgotten. Some might yet lie recorded in crumbling spellbooks hidden in ancient ruins or trapped in the minds of dead gods, or they might someday be reinvented by a character who has amassed enough power and wisdom to do so. Each spell found in D&D encompasses any one of the three pillars of adventure: role-playing, exploration, and combat. A spell such as Charm Person would aid in role-playing because if it succeeds, it causes the target of the spell to like your character more, making conversation with the target a lot easier. A spell such as Detect Magic would aid you in exploration, as it allows your character the ability to sense ambient magic in the area. And a spell such as Firebolt would aid in combat because, well, you're hurling a ball of fire at someone, which, last I checked, is not very good for your overall health and well-being. A spell, as you can imagine, is a pretty difficult feat to accomplish for your character, which means that they must have the spell somewhat memorized to cast for the day. When you decide to play as the spellcasting class, the player's handbook will inform you that in order for you to cast a spell, you must first have it ready to cast. These are called your prepared spells. Usually, you can prepare a number of spells a day equal to your character's class level plus your character's relevant modifier. As an example, a first level wizard with an intelligence modifier of +3 can prepare up to 4 spells a day to cast from their spellbook. Simple enough, right? As your character increases in levels, you'll be able to prepare more spells a day. Now that we know that spells are very complicated to cast, you must now understand that they are very strenuous on your character as well. Every spell has a level that indicates how powerful it is, rating from 0 to 9. 0 being the simplest and easiest spells to cast, while 9th level spells are the most complex and powerful spells. Spell levels 1 through 9 have what are called spell slots, which are used to represent how many times a day you can cast a spell from that level. If you are playing as a spellcasting class, there will be a table that shows you how many spell slots you have for each spell level, based off of your character level in class progression. This is an example of that taken from the Wizard class table. Notice how you have 2 first level spell slots at class level 1, 3 first level spell slots at class level 2, and a total of 4 first level spell slots and 2 second level spell slots at class level 3, and so on. Every time your character casts a spell of a certain level, they must expend a spell slot to do so. If you have no more remaining spell slots of the level you want to cast, you cannot do so. When your character takes a long rest in-game, their spell slots are then restored, allowing you to cast again. As an example of how spell slots work, my character is a first level wizard, which means that he can cast 2 first level spells a day from the list of spells that he has prepared. I then decide that I want to cast one of those spells. Whether the spell was a success or a failure, I must now remove a spell slot that I have available, leaving me with only one more spell that I can cast for that day. Simple, right? Just remember that every time you cast a spell, you have to take off one spell slot from the level that it was cast from. Now you might be asking, what about level 0 spells? Well, these level 0 spells are called cantrips, which are very simple yet very practical spells that are fixated in your character's mind, allowing them to effortlessly cast them. What does this mean, you might ask? Well, this means that cantrips do not have spell slots, which means that you can cast a cantrip all motherfucking day, if you so please. That same table that we looked at spell slots is the same table that will tell you how many cantrips you know at your character's current class level. So, a first level wizard knows 3 cantrips right off the bat and learns more as they progress in class levels. Spells are so great, in fact, that you can choose to make a certain spell even more powerful by expending a spell slot above the level that the spell is originally from. Certain spells allow you to do this in order to get more out of the spell. For reference, we're going to take a look at the first level spell, Cure Wounds, and read what it says. A creature you touch regains a number of hit points equal to 1d8 plus your spellcasting ability modifier. This spell has no effect on undead or constructs. When you cast this spell using a spell slot of 2nd level or higher, the healing increases by 1d8 for each slot above first. So, if we were to cast Cure Wounds as a 2nd level spell, I would expend a 2nd level spell slot and add a d8 to the roll. Pretty awesome, right? In D&D, there are 8 different classifications of magic. These are called schools. There is abjuration, conjuration, divination, enchantment, evocation, illusion, necromancy, and transmutation. The School of Abjuration has spells that are protective in nature, though some of them have aggressive uses. They create magical barriers, negate harmful effects, harm trespassers, or banish creatures to other planes of existence. The School of Conjuration has spells involving the transportation of objects and creatures from one location to another. Some spells summon creatures or objects to the caster's side, whereas others allow the caster to teleport to another location. Some conjurations create objects or effects out of nothing. The School of Divination has spells that reveal information, whether in the form of secrets long forgotten, glimpses of the future, the locations of hidden things, the truth behind illusions, or visions of distant people or places. The School of Enchantment has spells that affect the minds of others, influencing or controlling their behavior. Such spells can make enemies see the caster as a friend, force creatures to take a course of action, or even control another creature like a puppet. The School of Evocation has spells that manipulate magical energy to produce a desired effect. Some call up blasts of fire or lightning, others channel positive energy to heal wounds. The School of Illusion has spells that deceive the senses or minds of others. They cause people to see things that are not there, to miss things that are there, to hear phantom noises, or to remember things that never happened. Some illusions create phantom images that any creature can see, but the most insidious illusions plant an image directly in the mind of a creature. The School of Necromancy has spells that manipulate the energies of life and death. Such spells can grant an extra reserve of life force, drain the life energy from another creature, create the undead, or even bring the dead back to life. Be mindful, though, that spells that bring the dead back to life are not seen as a good act and are typically used by evil characters. But what the hell, who's going to tell you no? Finally, the School of Transmutation has spells that change the properties of a creature, object, or environment. They might turn an enemy into a harmless creature, bolster the strength of an ally, make an object move at the caster's command, or enhance a creature's innate healing abilities to rapidly recover from an injury. In conclusion, each school has its own set of powerful spells that can change and alter the world around you, so be careful not to piss off the wrong people. Now that we've covered what spells are, we can finally go over how to cast them. There are a few important details about spells that will tell you how long it will take to cast the spell, the range of the spell, any components that are required in order to cast the spell, and how long the spell lasts after you cast it. Each of these details can be found in the description of the spell you are attempting to cast. For this example, we're going to look at the spell Firebolt. The first thing that we see is that it's a cantrip, which, if you remember, can be cast at will without expending a spell slot. Next, it will tell us that it has a casting time of 1 action, which means that you can use your action on your turn to cast this spell. Casting times vary between spells. There are some spells that use a bonus action, or even some that take 1 minute or more to cast. We see that Firebolt has a range of 120 feet, which means that you can target a creature that is 24 squares away from you on a battle mat. Ranges can vary between spells. Some spells require that you target yourself, or require you to be able to touch your target. Others, such as Firebolt, provide you with enough distance to stay away from the target. Other spells require that you choose an area for the spell to take effect. As an example, spells such as Fireball do just this. You might choose an area within 100 feet of you. Each creature within a 20-foot radius of the point you choose must now make a saving throw to see if they can evade the attack or take the full brunt of it. Spells that have an area of an effect can target multiple creatures, allowing for quick dispatches of enemies. Next, we can see that this spell requires verbal and somatic components. Verbal components just mean that in order to cast the spell, your character must be able to speak a word or a phrase in order for it to be successful. Somatic components mean that your character must have a free hand in order to cast it. There is one more component that isn't mentioned here, and that is a material component. If a spell you want to cast has a material component, it will be something such as a sprig of mistletoe found in the spell Goodberry, or a diamond worth at least 50 gold pieces found in the spell Chromatic Orb. I, as a GM, don't really care if my players have the material components to cast a spell, but it's a good thing to know just in case if your GM does pay attention to that. Now, if we look at the duration for Firebolt, we can see that it is instantaneous, which means that as soon as it reaches its target, the spell is over. Some spells have a duration of 1 minute or longer. Most of these kinds of spells have a special rule called concentration. If a spell you cast requires your character to concentrate, you must follow these simple rules. Casting another spell that requires concentration while you are already concentrating on one means that you lose the effects of the first spell in order to cast the other. If you take damage while concentrating on a spell, you must make a Constitution saving throw with a difficulty of 10 or half the damage that was taken, whichever is higher, to see if you can maintain it. If you take multiple forms of damage, such as from an arrow and then a sword, you must roll 2 separate saving throws. Here's an example. My wizard is currently concentrating on a spell. A goblin then comes up to me and hits me with a short sword, dealing a total of 7 points of damage. I must now make a Constitution saving throw. Since the 10 is higher than the amount of damage dealt, I must roll to beat a 10. If I succeed, the spell is still in effect. If I fail, the spell ends. Finally, if your character ever falls unconscious or is killed, your concentration is broken and the spell ends. How do I know if my spell is a success or a failure, you might ask? Well, I'm here to help you with that. So, if you watch my previous video, The Basics of D&D, you'll know about Armor class and Difficulty class. The same rules for that apply to spells as well. There are 2 types of rolls made when casting spells, an attack roll and a saving throw. If at any point the spell you are trying to cast states that you must make a spell attack roll, you will take a d20 and add your spell attack bonus. How do I know what my spell attack bonus is? Well, it's quite simple in fact. In order to determine your spell attack bonus, you will add your proficiency bonus plus your class's relevant modifier. As an example, I'm playing a level 5 bard, and at level 5, my proficiency bonus is a +3, and a bard's spellcasting ability is charisma. My character's charisma modifier is a +4. I will then add 3 + 4 and get a total of +7 to my spell attack rolls. Pretty easy, right? Gabe, what happens if the spell requires a saving throw? So, when a spell requires that a target creature must make a saving throw, they must roll the d20 and compare the roll to your spell save DC. Your spell save DC is equal to 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your class's relevant modifier. Using the bard in the previous example, my spell save DC would equal 8 plus my proficiency bonus of 3 plus my charisma modifier of 4, leaving me with a total spell save DC of 15. This means that if a creature is forced to make a saving throw against my spell, they must now beat a 15. Pretty easy, right? Guys, I hope you found this video to be insightful for your quest to become a D&D player. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave them in the comment section below or reach us at our Instagram. We'd love to hear from you. Stay tuned for our upcoming videos as I'll be starting a new series involving character builds for D&D5e. I thought it would be pretty fun to take characters from pop culture and try to make builds out of them. Should be fun, so stay tuned. Salutations, brave adventurers. Until next, we meet again. We out.